Welcome to Scare Talk, a horror movie podcast for horror film reviews, ratings, rankings, and rumors. Now for your hosts, Danny, Joel, and Katrina.
All right. This is Scare Talk. I am Danny, and I am here with Jesus, Joel.
Hey guys, what's up? Oh man, Jesus tonight.
Yeah, once again, Jesus has risen.
Yeah.
And so it's just the Danny and Joel show today.
Yep.
We're kicking it old school. We were the only two that were able to see the film we're going to review today. Katrina was unable to go, so it'll just be us. And the film we are going to review is brand new, 2024's Immaculate.
Immaculate.
Yeah.
2024's first R-rated movie, if you want to, like, as far as
like wide release
movies. Yeah. Yep.
That's true.
We've had a few PG-13 movies, so
yeah,
we'll see how this one goes. All right, so this one stars Sydney Sweeney. She is actually her production company did this one too.
That's what I heard.
It's called 50/50, I think. Well, there was like 4 production companies at least.
Oh my gosh,
attached to this movie.
That reminds me of something I'll bring up later, but
yeah, I want to bring something up about a particular production company. Yeah, later on. She was in 16 episodes of Euphoria. A romantic comedy called Anyone But You, which came out at the end of last year.
Yeah.
And most recently, she was in Madam Web, which is which is not doing very well at all.
Got 0 positive reviews as far as I could tell.
It was pretty bad. I haven't seen it, but I've heard it's pretty bad. And this also stars Alvaro Morte, his father Sal. He was in 9 episodes of The Wheel of Time, which I think is an Amazon show. 41 episodes of Money Heists, which I think is a Netflix show. Okay. And Amar en Tiempos Revueltos. I'm not Spanish, so I don't know if I did that right. But he was in 90 episodes of that in 2014. Wow. In 1 year. He did 90 episodes of that. So it was one of those episode
like
every
Spanish
single day. Soap opera. Yeah. And then we got Simona Tabasco.
She's really?
Sister Mary. Yeah, her last name's
Tabasco. Wow. Yeah. All right.
She was Sister Mary. After the first 2, I just picked the third one down on IMDb, but I think that was like her friend in the monastery, but she didn't get that much screen time. So a lot of them didn't really get too much screen time.
No, Sydney Sweeney was pretty much
the main focus
on every scene. So
yeah. So this person was in Doc. It's DOC, capital letters. Nelle Tu Mani, 32 episodes. The White Lotus, 7 episodes.
Okay,
that's one people know. I Bastardi di Pisa Falcone, 20 episodes. lots of Spanish stuff in this.
Yeah.
And this was written by Andrew Lobel, and he's literally done 4 things, and Immaculate was one of them. So the other things are Delirium, The Doll Man, which was a short.
Ooh, The Doll Man.
Delirium, The Doll Man. PUBG Ground Zero, which was a short. And 1 episode of Mysteries Unknown, which I have heard of that show. But he did 1 episode. And this was directed by Michael Mohan, who directed The Voyeurs, which also Sydney Sweeney was in. as well. I just didn't mention that, but she was in that movie. Everything Sucks with an exclamation
Oh,
point. 7
yeah.
episodes. So that's a TV show.
Yeah.
And Save the Date. So
Okay. Cool. So, for the description here, we have Cecilia, a woman of devout faith, is warmly welcomed to the picture-perfect Italian countryside where she is offered a new role at an illustrious convent. But it becomes clear to Cecilia that her new home harbors dark and horrifying secrets.
oh man.
Oh, yeah. All right. So, I think that's a pretty good description of it.
Yeah.
I don't think it gives away too much. It doesn't even give
Yeah.
away what was obvious in the trailer about the plot, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty good. So it has been reviewed on Rotten Tomatoes by critics and the audience. So the critic score, the tomato meter is at 72%,
Okay.
with 112 reviews. So it's pretty good, pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
And then the audience score with 100 plus ratings is 60%. So it's right at that fresh
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
status for the audience. And then we've got IMDb. And for that, we have a 6.3. And that is 2,375 reviews.
Man, horror's
There
just
you-
not getting that
there you
much
have it.
attention. Like, it's really
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. This one, it's from Neon Production, which is like the main production company.
Mm-hmm.
And they're kind of coming up, I feel like.
Yeah.
They're kind of like a miniature A24 right now,
Mhm.
with some of the stuff that's going to be coming out with them, and including this. And yeah, I think it was a wide release. I think it was in like a lot
Yeah.
of theaters, but not a lot of reviews
Mhm.
so far. And we're filming this at the end of the weekend,
Yeah.
of the opening weekend. So yeah, I guess we'll see how many more come through. But
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, typically, like opening weekend is when you get like the majority of the people,
yeah,
majority of your reviews. So, we might get some more like tomorrow for this weekend. But yeah, would you say like 370 reviews for on IMDb or
no, 2,375.
2,000? Okay,
Yeah,
okay, yeah,
On Rotten Tomatoes, there was only 100 plus audience ratings.
yeah. So who knows what that is?
So
What's the plus? Like
yeah, I don't know. Like, do
if
they
it goes
say
up higher?
1,000 plus if it's over 1,000?
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Anyways, so we will talk about Immaculate. Remember, we're gonna stay spoiler free, and then we will give a rating. And then, if you are a Patreon subscriber, then you will get the spoilers on Patreon only. If you're not a subscriber yet, then go over to patreon.com/scaretalk and become a member. For only $4 a month, you get all the spoilers, and you get shout outs, and you get extra episodes every month. For
yep.
example, we are going to be posting this week our the ranking of the opening premonitions from the Final Destination series, and that's only on Patreon. So if you want to know our
Yep.
ranking of that, go over there. All right, so let's get into it.
All right.
So we got Sydney Sweeney. I have not seen her in anything. I've
I haven't
heard
either.
about her.
Mhm.
I've heard about her.
Yeah.
I've seen her, like, I don't know. I guess she got pretty big with the show Euphoria, as far as I
Mhm.
know, from what I understand, which was kind of a big show. And then I remember seeing the trailer for the Anyone But You movie.
Mhm.
And then now this, and she is a good actress.
She is. She
Yeah.
is definitely the one carrying this movie for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I was really impressed with her. There was one scene in particular that if it felt like that Pearl moment at the end of
Yeah.
Pearl in
Yeah.
this movie. I was like, wow, okay.
Absolutely.
She's I mean, if she sticks with horror, she could be a force to be reckoned with, especially with like
Mm-hmm.
the Scream Queen. Like, there's a couple that
Yeah.
are up and coming Scream Queens, and she could definitely be one of them. So
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I thought she did really good. Um, yeah, especially that scene. I know what you're talking about. And her performance reminded me of the movie Mother.
yeah,
Um, oh my gosh, what is her name?
Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah, Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah.
How she carried that movie. And she
Hmm.
was like in every scene, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of close-ups on her face, and like she had to really show the
Hmm.
emotions and stuff.
And there are some
And
good actors in
the
that movie too. So
yeah, yeah,
like some A-list actors. So
yeah. And maybe it reminded me of that because of the mother part of it,
mhm. Yeah.
like the if you've seen the trailer of Immaculate and just by the name, um
Mhm.
she Sydney Sweeney's character Cecilia ends up pregnant
Mhm.
um out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's
It's the
yeah,
Immaculate Conception.
it's the next Immaculate Conception. So,
Yeah.
but of course, in a horror film, especially when you're talking about nuns, there's more to the story.
Yeah.
Um, so I feel like this movie, we talked about it during our trailer reaction, which came out recently. You can go check that out on our YouTube channel. But we talked about how we're kind of getting a little fatigued with the Catholic horror stuff and the
Yeah.
nun stuff and religious horror in general. It's kind
Hmm.
of just there's been a lot of them.
Yeah, there have been.
Yeah. And I will say that this one was unique.
Hmm.
I feel like it's not like your typical religious horror film. Yes, there is just
There's a lot of
the nunnery or the covenant in general is kind of
mhm.
creepy on its own, and
Yeah.
that lifestyle is pretty intense. And so just like the atmosphere with that is kind of prevalent in this and in other
Yeah.
like The Nun and The Nun 2.
Hmm.
So I think that is kind of what it has in common with those other films, but the story here was a little different.
Hmm.
So, what did you think of the story?
I I really liked it. I will say, I mean, it's not like that. It's not like we've had a bunch of like really good movies lately, but this is my favorite of the year so far. So,
Yeah,
but it's that's behind two Blumhouse movies and another one that wasn't
yeah,
good either. So,
not much
um,
competition.
no, there hasn't been, but I mean, I will say that this is definitely up there for me for like religious horror because
Yeah,
yeah, there are a lot of cliches in this movie that there are in those movies. Um, like the jump scares were lame. We'll say most of them were just like very like okay, I see, we're about to be jump scared here. Like it's not
yeah,
the music
telegraphed.
fades away and then something happens.
Yeah,
Um, but the story was really I like the story of it, especially when we get into what we're going to be talking about in our spoiler section. Like the story with like behind the story, I guess, or within the story,
yeah, yeah,
because the story is that she got pregnant. Like
yeah,
that's the basic plot of the story, and
yeah,
by who did she get pregnant by? We
yeah.
don't know. Well, we do know, but we'll find out later.
Immaculate.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was an immaculate conception.
God. Yeah,
Yeah. So I liked the story behind that as well because
yeah,
I mean, obviously they had to have something.
Yeah.
to that. But the acting was really good, especially with her. I liked Father Sal. He did a good job in the scenes that he was in. And the atmosphere was really good too. I really liked the atmosphere for this, and it's. I mean, that you can pretty much say that, like what you're saying about most nun or nunnery movies. Its
Yeah.
atmosphere is usually pretty good in those types of
I think
movies,
just being in that setting,
and that's yeah, in that yeah,
and like the churches and those like the architecture and
mm-hmm.
just kind of like the isolation of it
Yeah,
too. There's nowhere to go really. You're
mm-hmm.
kind of just trapped. And that's the
Yeah,
very beginning of the movie. You kind of find out that it's kind of a trapped place.
yeah, yeah. Well, the
Um
opening scene, you find
yeah.
out like it's
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, huh, I
So
wonder where this is gonna matter.
yeah,
And I mean, it doesn't really like
it
explain it
it doesn't,
necessarily,
but
but
like
we
it
can
kind
kind of
of
put two and two together and
yeah,
figure
yeah.
out what that was all about.
Mm-hmm.
There is a part which is in the trailer, but I'm not going to be specific about it. But it is very reminiscent of the Omen,
Okay.
with what one of the characters does.
Mm-hmm.
And while like some of the effects on it was cool,
Oh
was
yeah,
good,
yeah.
but it's been done. I feel
Mhm.
like that's been done so many times. Even in The Nun, I think it was done too. Um where no, I think she like hung herself though. I think it was maybe a little
Mhm.
different in The Nun, but it I don't know, I feel like it's not shocking anymore, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that scene that I think is the thing that you're talking about. I won't go into detail right now, but I mean, in The Omen, it was.
It was
Yeah, we'll
shocking
talk
in The
about it.
Omen.
I mean, it was shocking in The Omen
It was
because it's
kind of out
not
of
something that
nowhere.
you see.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was trying to to word this in a way that's not going to give anything away. But I think I'll wait until until the
Yeah.
because I mean, yeah, it did feel like The Omen, but it was also done differently to me.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's one thing that we can talk about. I think it's if it's the same scene, which I think it is.
Yeah.
Um, but but yeah, I was feeling like some Omen
Yeah.
feels for that one
It's
too.
kind
It's
of
just
it's almost kind of like the opposite of The Omen. Like I
that
feel
moment
like no,
or the movie
this
in
movie.
general.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
And we're going to see the first Omen coming up in a
yeah,
couple of weeks.
yeah.
And I feel like it's going to be a very similar movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um I don't know if what the trailer of the first Omen is, displaying is any indication of the what that movie is going to be, then I feel like we're going to watch kind of like the same but opposite
Mm-hmm.
story at the same. I don't know. I'm like, this is just. Why are these two movies coming out within just a couple of weeks? I mean, I know Easter
Yeah, I was
is,
just saying. Well, Easter is right around the
in
corner, so
between, so maybe that's the motivation. I don't know. I don't think you're going to get a lot of people who are really invested in Easter to go and watch these movies, but
mm,
maybe I don't know. I mean, I'd rather watch Passion of the Christ. That's a horror movie.
I mean,
It's a
yeah,
scary one.
there's yeah. Oh man, I have a lot to talk about in the spoiler section because you're just like bringing up some stuff, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it is opposite, but at the same time, is it? It's like
Yeah, exactly.
it's it's. I can't say anything. um, but but yeah, we'll definitely go into a talk on that here in a little
Yeah.
bit. Um, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. More than I thought I was going to.
Yeah.
seeing the trailer the last time when we did our trailer reaction, I was like, okay, this looks pretty good. It looks like it could be, better than we've gotten so far, which it was. But
Yeah.
like, by how much? Like that's
Right. Right.
But then watching it, I was like, yeah, this is way better. This is
Yeah. Yeah.
like now we're starting to
It
get
was.
into like the good horror
Yeah.
months. I'm
This was
hoping
like
at
a
least.
seriously taken, not
Hmm.
just a popcorn horror
Yeah,
film like some of the other ones that we've seen. And from what I heard and what I read was this script was kind of out there for a while.
yeah,
And Sydney Sweeney wanted
had it.
to do the movie, and
Hmm.
she had to kind of build her brand up a little bit, and then she was able to produce this film.
Yeah,
She's kind of the reason why it's saw the light of day.
she's
Because it
had
was
it
just kind of
since
sitting there. Yeah.
yeah since like 2013 is what I heard, what I
Oh
read.
wow.
So she's had
Was
it for
she
a
like
while.
she was like
And
12 or
yeah,
like
I don't know. I, so you gotta wait a little longer if you want to star in this thing.
yeah, if you want to be
Um,
taken
you
seriously as the
can't.
lead in this,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to
I
wait
mean,
until you're at least in your 20s.
yeah. I mean, yeah. This was like before Euphoria, like before she
Yeah.
actually. So I don't know how she got a hold of the scripts. If I
Yeah.
mean, at that age, and then she created her own production company, which is really
Yeah,
cool.
it's pretty crazy. Because I don't
Yeah,
feel like she's been acting for that long. Usually it's like the top,
yeah.
top
It
A-list actors that have their own production company. But I guess, anybody can really do that.
Yeah. I mean,
It
actors
doesn't,
don't typically have their own production
yeah.
companies. It makes sense for an actor to have their own because that's
Yeah.
just steady, like, put yourself in your own movie. Like, that's just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
that
And
just
then
makes sense.
you just
It
have
should
to
be,
have the money to put up for it
yeah.
and to get it
Yeah.
made and to convince other distributors that your movie is
Hmm.
worth it,
Yeah.
to actually get it in theaters and everything. But yeah, I'm glad she did. I think it's
Hmm.
a good one. It'll generate some discussion,
Yeah.
especially the ending.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
I've seen people like, oh my gosh, the ending was crazy. And some people say, like, it was okay. And then the ending kind of ruined it, or, they
Hmm.
didn't like the ending. So I don't know where I land on it. Um, I think, I think I prefer the way it ended. I think it could have ended,
Hmm.
a few different ways, but I kind of like how it ended just for
Yeah.
the darkness of it. I think this
Hmm.
movie definitely has a dark tone to it, and
Yeah.
I don't know if I wanted to see more than it showed.
Hmm.
I
No,
in the
yeah.
moment I was like, I want to like show it, show what she's looking at, and but then I was like, I don't know, maybe this is better. So
You see it from a distance.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
enough.
you can't really tell like what's going on over there, but yeah,
Yeah.
you can kind of make out the noises and stuff too to kind
Yeah.
of get an idea of what we're dealing with. But
Yeah, and
anyways,
I will say that I am totally fine with how they ended it. I don't personally. I don't. I mean, there are like two options, I guess, that they could have
yeah,
ended this, but I don't see how I think they ended it perfectly.
yeah,
And that's another thing we'll talk about because I do have thoughts on that as well.
okay,
Because I mean, it's kind of a big moment in the movie.
yeah,
Like
no, it's
it's a
huge.
huge moment in the
Yeah,
movie,
yeah,
and that whole scene was a one take. Like
yeah,
that whole last couple minutes, it was like all one take, which is really
man,
impressive.
yeah,
A
it's
lot
wild.
happens in a couple minutes.
Yeah,
um. So yeah, yeah.
yeah, I feel like there's some, you know, um, certain values that people hold that this movie, the ending, can kind of
Yeah.
put you
I mean, and
uneasy. And I mean, I think that's the point. They kind of just went for it. Like, we're going to be
mm-hmm,
as kind of brutal as possible
mm-hmm,
with this ending. And there you go.
yeah. And I
And
get
it's,
that.
it's not real life though,
No, it's
so.
not. This whole situation is not real life. This whole situation
Yeah.
is never going to
Yeah.
happen.
No. It's an
It could
interesting
never happen.
idea. It's an
Yeah,
interesting idea.
yeah.
And
And I mean,
I
yeah,
don't know. It
there
makes
is
you think.
more. There's more to it than just
Yeah.
immaculate conception.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Of
guess
course.
in years it could, quote unquote, could
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, they're doing crazy stuff these days.
Yeah. Man. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how realistic it is. We'll say
Yeah.
that. But I don't but
Mm,
that doesn't bother me though. I feel like
mm-hmm.
it doesn't
Oh yeah, no.
the plot doesn't have to be
We're talking about
necessarily
horror movies.
realistic.
Doesn't have to be
Yeah.
realistic. Like
Yeah.
horror is as far from realistic as it usually comes.
But even like there's some movies like slashers where it's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I want a little bit of realism because they're
Yeah.
supposed to kind of be grounded. And I do feel like this movie is pretty grounded, even with the fantastical stuff.
Yeah.
Even that, while that isn't realistic, the concept of it is
Mm-hmm.
powerful.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, even though it's not something that could actually happen, the meaning behind it and the motivation
Mm-hmm.
behind it and all that is kind of creepy and
Mm-hmm.
makes you think. What I also liked about it was, yes, there were a few jump scares which were telegraphed and not surprising, but there wasn't a lot of like supernatural stuff going on, or
Yeah.
a scary
True.
nun popping up in the
Yeah.
corner and then not being
Yeah.
there anymore. Well, I guess there was kind of a part like that, but it wasn't the nun, I guess is what I
Mm-hmm.
mean. It
Yeah.
was There was more to it than that
Yeah.
cheapness. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was for sure.
As
All
far as
right.
negatives, I don't really have any. I You can kind of nitpick it a little bit, where I would say maybe. Well, actually, I just thought of another positive. I think it was pretty unpredictable.
Yeah.
I didn't really know where it was gonna go. I mean, once you kind of get the
The full
like
story.
climax of it, I guess, and the full
Mm-hmm.
story, you still have a good amount of time after that.
Yeah.
So it's not like I feel like the climax is kind of, or the like peak is kind of
Mm-hmm.
early in the movie, maybe. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like there's like a reveal that is usually you get a reveal within the last 15 minutes, but I feel like there was a good probably half hour or
Yeah.
so after the reveal, and
Mm-hmm.
which is different. But I didn't see that coming.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what was going to happen, and that's a positive.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything that did happen, I'm glad happened though.
Yeah. Yeah.
From that moment that we find the full story to
Yeah.
the end of the movie it was pretty fast paced from that point on.
Yeah.
And everything that happened. So
Yeah.
and yeah, yeah. I was gonna say kind of in like a surprising way too.
Yeah.
Because I honestly wasn't expecting everything that happened at the at the end there. So
Yeah.
it was good.
I don't know that I really have any huge negatives.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't think I
Other
have
than the
any.
jump scares. There were a few
Yeah.
jump scares that were kind of weak, and
Mm-hmm.
just like it felt like you just kind of felt like you had to put those in, and they were very
Yeah.
unnecessary.
Like you were saying, they were telegraphed. Like you
Mm.
knew exactly when it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah.
There was one that kind of made me jump but it was because it came from behind and not like in front. Someone's like hands like grabbed it from behind. That one kind of made me jump because I was expecting something that she was looking at to like come out at her. But everything else was like, okay, there's a jump scare.
Yeah.
There's a jump scare. Okay.
Yeah.
And this
Still
was
had
the
to
type,
throw those in there.
yeah, but you didn't need to. This was a movie you
No.
didn't need any jump scares. Like,
No, definitely not.
so would have honestly, like, you know, without the jump scares, probably you wouldn't have had any negatives to say about this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was probably my biggest negative too. Was like just the choreographed, the telegraphed jump scares. It's like,
Yeah.
don't do that.
Just take those out. Yeah.
Not every horror movie needs to have jump scares in them.
Right. Okay. Let's rate it.
All right.
What do you think?
Man. Because I really enjoyed this movie. I could see myself watching this a couple of times this year, at least once or twice more this year. We're still fairly early in the year. And didn't really have any negatives. I'm going to give this a 90.
Okay.
First A of the year.
Yeah, that's a good score. I wasn't gonna go that high. I'll go 86.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I liked it a lot. I did see 2 movies back to back, and Late Night with the Devil, and then this one.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if because this one I will say is slower. I think, and less exciting. So it was definitely a different tone and an adjustment. And I think anything is going to be an adjustment from Late Night with the Devil. I think that movie is very standalone, kind of on its own thing. So that could have made the experience not 90 level. And I don't know how many times I would watch this, because once you kind of know, then and I don't know how much extra entertainment value there is. I think it's a good one to watch for somebody who hasn't seen it, even if you've seen it. I think that's cool. I think if you are religious and you're okay with watching horror films, I think this one can kind of strike a nerve a little bit and generate some discussion. So yeah, we'll go 86.
Okay. I wonder if you're because I know you saw this one second after Late Night with the Devil, if your opinion would have changed if you had seen it first. Because then you went off of seeing Late Night with the Devil going into this movie that you said is slower. So
this one is slower. And it was 15 minutes in between. So there wasn't a lot of time in between. And it was late too. I saw this one at 10:20 p.m.
Yeah.
So and both movies are about an hour and a half. There was a lot of trailers though for Late Night with the Devil. Holy crap.
Really?
Yeah. There was a half hour of trailers. It was wild. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. And we're going to review that as well, but something I do want to say before we get into the spoilers that was really funny about Late Night with the Devil was how many production companies were how before each movie there's the production company logo and their little short little scene about whatever. I don't even know what you would call those little things that display the production company. It's not credits, but it's their little 5-second thing. There was many of them. I want to say there was 10.
Wow.
10 back to back. It got to the point where the crowd was laughing because I'm serious. The whole theater was laughing the last couple of them because it was what? When is the movie going to start? Because a couple of them were oh, is this the movie? Nope, it's not the movie. It's dude. And some of them were really weird. And I'm What the heck?
There's actually a Family Guy episode, like clip, where
Yeah, I think I've seen
Peter's
that.
going to the movie theater,
Yeah,
and like there's like the logo of a production company. He's like, oh, that
yeah,
looks like a good movie, and it's like something pictures. And, oh, okay. And then, oh, that looks like good.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've
Like does
seen
that
that.
like
That's what it
four or
reminded
five
me of.
times.
Yeah, that's
That's
exactly
funny.
what it reminded me of. It was like a real life version of that. And
Yeah,
I've never been to a movie where people are laughing for that reason.
yeah,
And it
yeah. That's
was like,
crazy.
I feel like that's something not everybody would like think is funny. Because I think
Hmm.
a lot of people just probably don't even pay attention to those things.
Yeah.
But the fact that everybody laughed was
Hmm.
like, okay, this is excessive. Like, why
Yeah,
do we
and
have so many?
it's not just like it's being shown on the screen. Like you're getting the
Right.
actual like
The whole
quote
little
unquote
intro thing.
scene
Yeah.
intro
Yeah.
to it, and I mean, Immaculate had like 4 or 5 production companies, but
Yeah.
only like
Oh,
two
yeah.
of them had that. Like the rest of them
Yeah.
were just up on the screen.
Right. Yeah. Just part
Um,
of the opening credits. Yeah. This
yeah,
was the opening credits were those little scenes. And
yeah, that's funny.
it was crazy. Yeah. It was funny. I'm surprised I haven't seen anything like that online, like someone commenting about it, because
Mm,
it's very,
yeah,
very obvious. And yeah. So, anyways, yeah. So if you saw Late Night with the Devil and you know what I'm talking about, send us a comment or something to let us know that you noticed that as well.
that's funny. Oh no, I'll definitely notice it when I eventually see it. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I
that's a
wonder
little
if
extreme.
when it's on Shutter if it'll have all that. I hope so.
Oh yeah, yeah, I hope so too.
Um all right, so we're gonna get into spoilers, which is for Patreon only. So if you're on Patreon, just keep listening, keep watching, because we're gonna get deep into
Oh yeah,
Immaculate. If you're not,
deep.
then we will talk to you next time.